And there we go. Okay. That's how to calculate the sum of numbers from 1 to 10. Excuse me, from 1 to 100, right? As you can see, we started off with 1, the number was 1, and you can see it moved to 2, then 2 plus 1 is 3, then we move to 3, 3 plus 3 is 6, to 4, 4 plus 6 is 10, and so until we got to the end, right? Go to 100. It's about 550. So that is one, that's the way, that is a way to calculate the sum of numbers from 1 to 100. However, I want to show you something in Python, right? A shortcut, right? You see this expression here, total is equals to total plus num, right? We can shorten it by saying plus equals, right? And that stands for total is equals to total plus num, right? So this is an incremental, I guess, notation. We say with this on the left plus, we're going to increment this on the left by this, right? So we're incrementing what we had before by this value. And this operation can work with the other operators such as the multiplier, the minus, and I think also the division, if I'm not mistaken, but we can, yeah, so that's just one shortcut, right? Cool, let's do another problem actually. Okay, guys. So in this one, we're going to calculate the sum of even numbers from 1 to 200, right? And how do we do that? We're going to use, like before, the for loop. And how we did that before, we're going to have something to store our total. I'm going to assign that to 0. And then we're going to use the for loop for num in range. Now it says the even numbers from 1 to 200, right? So I know that the first even number from 1, right, is 2. So instead of starting at 2, instead of starting on 1, I'll start at 2, right? Because 1 is not an even number. And then I'm going to move to 201, right? Remember 201? That's the last, I want to include 200 in this. So if I minus, that'll be 19, right? Then, or not 19, or 999, right? And then I'm going to say, but it's still within this value, within this range. Then I'm going to say I want to increment by 2. Okay. And then I'm just going to print it for now so that we can see print number. Okay. And then let's just do that so that we understand. So we print it and you can see it stops at 200. So we have 200 included. Okay. So we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. If you see any uneven number, yep, no, so it's not there. Cool. Now I want to sum the sequences, right? And how do I do that? How do I do that? Like we did it before, I'm just going to say total plus equals num. And then at the end, we're just going to print. We're going to print the total. Okay. And also, just so that we can have visualize this, we can say print an f string running total, and we're going to put total, and then I'm going to say also we just also want to see the num, and then we want to see the num, so we're just going to go num, and num, right? So this is a string, this is the variable, and let's print that out. And like you see there, just like before, running total, we have that, and you can see that the total is 10,100. Okay, that is how you use a for loop. Now, remember I said that a string is an iterable. So you can iterate through the characters in this, in a string, right? This is a string, I'm just using it as a comment, but let's actually try that out. I'm gonna call this random string, right? And we can iterate through with this. So I'm gonna say, remember a string is just a collection of characters, right? Always remember that, a collection of characters. I'm gonna say for char in random string. Remember, don't forget the colon. Let's print car. And let's run that. And you can see iterate over strings, right? So we can do that. Now, what happens? Let's try something. Let's try using bring back the if condition as well. We want to count the number of vowels in this, right? Remember our vowels in this string? Remember our vowels? Vowels, A, E, I, O, U, right? Or A, E, I, O, U. Those are our vowels, right? Now let's try and count how many we have in there. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, right? So how do we count that programmatically? Remember, let's start off with something to hold our count. So I'm going to call it count, right? Quite relevant. And then I'm going to say for car in random string. Now, as you can see, it's going to, for each string, it's printing out the character. Now, instead of printing out the character, why don't I just check if it's a vowel, right? And how do I check something? With an if statement, right? Remember, if this car is a string, right? Right, so if it's a string, then what do I want to do? I want to increase my count. And how do I do that? I can say count is equals to count plus 1, or like I showed you before, count plus equals 1, right? Now, this is just some pseudocode, right? Remember, if this is just me writing English, if count is a string, a string, my bad. If count is a vowel, right? Increase the count, okay? So how do I do that in Python? Remember, I can use this thing called the in function, right? And I can say this, the in keyword essentially returns a true value if a certain element is present in a Python object, right? So this keyword, it's like a check, right? It checks if this item is in an object that I'm going to specify now. And if it is, right, if this is true, if it's in there, this will result to true. If it's not, it is going to result to false, right? So what do I want to be in here? I want this vowels to be in here. However, remember I told you that case matters. So I also want the case to be there as well. So if a character is in this sequence or collection of strings, right, then it's a vowel. And when that happens, I want to increase my count. And as you can see, I've now put it in Python code. I've ensured the indentation, right? And then we can now at the end say print. Actually, you know what? Before we increment, let's just have it programmatically show that say this character is a vowel, and then we can see. So I'm going to say car. So if it's true, is a vowel, right? So we can see as well. And then when that does, we'll increase the count. And then from there, we can print our overall count, right? So let's see if that works. Let me clear the screen and run it. I'm going to say Python. Let me say Python loops.py. And we can see I is a vowel, true, A is a vowel, true, E is a vowel, yes, A is a vowel, E, yes, yes, and we get 7 like we. So that is one way to use a for loop, right? We're iterating through a collection, right? A sequence of strings or a collection of characters, and we're checking to see if in this collection it meets our condition, right? So this is very important, an important commonly used while programming. Let's say you have something that you have to iterate over, an object that you have to iterate over, and if one of these objects meets a condition that you would like, then you do something. If it doesn't, then you either do something else or you just ignore it, right? So that is one use case. So it's a quite simple one, but hopefully you have gotten the hang of for loops and making decisions. All right, guys, cool.